Hi there, my name is Katie Marks. I'm a nurse at St. Charles Hospital, and I'd like to do a tutorial today on how you can make a mask, which would be filtering down to 1 micron filter strength for homemade masks that we hopefully will be able to use in our hospitals and distribute to all our caregivers. This mask is a pretty simple design. It involves getting a lot of cotton fabric that is 9 inches wide and 6 inches tall. And we're going to be putting a filter cloth that's the 1 micron filter cloth in between those two sheets to form the mask. And I'm going to show you how we can make a good seal with those masks so that that filter can actually work for us and we don't lose stuff out the sides. So first, I would recommend, if you're going to be making a large quantity of these, to go ahead and cut out a cardboard piece that's 9 across and 6 tall. That way you can just lay that down on your fabric and start cutting away. As far as the type of fabric we'd like you to use, we're just looking for cotton fabric. You can use quilting fabric. It doesn't really matter. Just as long as it's 9.5 by 6, then it can work. If you want to be nice and make sure the patterns are upright, make sure that you have your pattern so that it's facing upright. 9 inches across, 6 inches tall. For today's tutorial, since I don't have any of the filter cloth available yet, I'm going to use some coffee filters. A regular mask, a fabric mask that a lot of people are starting to sew, those are typically 50 microns worth of filtration. A coffee filter is 20 microns of filtration. So if you sewed a simple mask, cloth mask, and you added a coffee filter to it, like I'm about to do, then you're increasing the filtration to a 20 micron filtration. So that's better. Hopefully we can get those filter cloth inserts in time where we can sew. Very important to sew the filter into the mask, because as anyone who's done an N-95 fit test knows, without a proper seal, it doesn't really matter what kind of filtration you have. You need that proper seal around your chin and around the bridge of your nose. So to get started, again, this is an example from the materials I have. I'm just using, in this case, some blue fabric that's a little on the thin and skimpy side. Please feel free to use something thicker. The real filtration's coming from what's going to be the filter cloth that goes in the middle. The filter cloth, when it comes, will be able to filter down to 1 micron. So very important to really just focus on making sure this doesn't get punctured or damaged in any way. So I'm going to point this down here to get started. So again, I have the 2 pieces of fabric. Get this out of the way. I have the 2 pieces of fabric. Now, if this had a pretty print on it, like I have for this example, if you had a pretty print side and an ugly side, make sure the ugly sides are what's facing out, and then you put your filter on top of the 2 of the ugly sides facing out. But in this example, we're just going to use this. So the 2 pretty sides would face each other, and then you put the filter cloth on top. This is what we are going to sew. Now, it may be tempting, because a lot of people that know sewing would be wanting to go ahead and pin this. Please do not pin this. If you poke a hole in the filter cloth when it comes, you have just turned a 1 micron filtration mask into perhaps not even a 20 filtration mask. So please leave these pins somewhere else. You can simply use binder clips to kind of keep all the material together. It's not perfect, but it will work, just so that we don't damage the filter cloths when they do come in. So once we get all the, that wasn't very good. Once we get all the sides pinned together, we can start sewing. Another thing to think about when you're sewing is that we're sewing this mask inside out. So in order to get it right side out, we'll need to leave a hole. So when you start sewing, I like to start at the top middle portion, and I'm going to sew all the way to the corner. Before I get all the way to the corner, I'm going to put in between the 2 pretty layers the string that I'm going to use, or the elastic that I'm going to use, so that to make the strings of the mask. So to get started, that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm just going to sew from the corner to the edge here and put the elastic in the corner here. Let me get this going. Trying to, whatever seam allowance you need to make sure the materials are forming together. Again, I'm not going all the way to the edge. So, there we go. Okay, I'm stopping about an inch before the end. Now in this case, I'm using a piece of elastic. If you needed to, you could use a shoelace or any other kind of material. I do like the component of elastic involved because that just adds one more thing, kind of sucking this mask to your face by the time we're done, but I can explain that. For this, I'm just using a 7-inch piece of elastic. This is what I had, but you can use any kind of elastic, and like I said, we can talk later about how we can use any material, whether it's elastic or not, to help form this to your face. So what I'm going to do is between the two pretty layers, I'm going to put this in there, kind of in a 45-degree angle facing towards the middle of the mask. So the needle's stuck in here. I'm going to lift it up. And I'm inserting that so it can be sewn into the mask. Quarter of the way there already. All right, so taking down the next corner, this little string that I just put in between the two layers is going to go down to the next corner. So you don't want to sew it until you want to make sure that that material isn't getting sucked into what you're sewing. So just kind of feel around, make sure that I'm feeling that's out of the way. So I'm going to go sew down close to the edge of the corner, like an inch away, and we're going to do the same thing. Okay, now I'm going to find that piece of elastic. It's right here. Put that in this bottom corner. I'm going to sew that up now. So again, you want to make sure that that piece of elastic doesn't somehow get sucked into whatever else you're sewing. So just kind of feel around, make sure it's not in there. Now this one we can just sew straight across the to this corner, stopping about an inch from the corner, so we can put in our next strap. Okay, same thing, we're gonna kind of poke this so it's not in our way. Stuff it into the two layers in our mask so it's not in the way until we get to the corner. And yeah, at this point I'll just take that. Okay, now we find the edge of that string and put it in that corner. I'll go a little bit towards the center, knowing that we will have to turn this inside out. All right, so now we have a mask that has a filter. We're going to say this is a filter cloth. In this case, it's just a coffee filter. And then our two pieces of material. And now we have a hole at the top. So where the two pieces of fabric are together, which should be your two pretty sides facing each other, we're going to start putting what's outside inside. So we're just putting it all inside out. So that's that strap we sewed in. Just going to go all the way around. Probably could have left for myself a slightly bigger hole, but that's okay. Okay. So oops. I obviously didn't sew enough down there. Should have made a larger seam allowance. Now you might be thinking, well, gosh, Katie, everywhere that you've just sewed, you are breaking that filter. That's okay. What we can do is when the mask is 100% complete, everywhere that there are seams, we could super glue those little edges if we wanted to. I don't know if it makes that much of a difference because at this point in time, it's really, that's the part that's pressed against your face, so I don't know that it matters that much. But this would be the time where I like to insert the what will be the sealing feature for the nose and the chin. So that just involves two twisty ties, one or two. I think with two you have a little bit more strength to it. So it almost doubles over twice, but not quite. So just twist a regular twisty or a pipe cleaner in half, and where that hole was that we put everything through, we're just going to drop it in and kind of wedge it to the bottom. You really want to push that pipe cleaner all the way to the bottom of the mask. Kind of see the silhouette of it. And you can sew all the way across here to hold that pipe cleaner in place. I'm going to do just maybe not all the way across, just for the sake of demonstration. Okay, so now we have a mask with a pipe cleaner at the bottom that will conform to the shape of your face. Now we'll do that on the other side. So this, typically I'll make this the bottom of the mask. That'll be the way we seal it, and the top will be the nose bridge piece. I think if you had two pipe cleaners for the top, it probably would be best just to make sure the nose has a good seal over the top, but we're going to do this with one since this is just a coffee filter mask. So I'm putting that very close to the top, folding the edges down. And I'm gonna have to top stitch this closed, and then I'm gonna sew the pipe cleaner in place. You may notice I am an amateur sewer. So that was just to sew the mask shut with my pipe cleaner in it. Now I'm going to, again, make sure that pipe cleaner is exactly where I want it to be, at the bridge of the nose. And sew that again. Don't need to sew all the way across, but it probably would be helpful if you did. Okay, so now you have a did I mention again I'm an amateur sewer? Okay, so now we have a mask with a bunch of strings hanging off it. We can cut those off. That has a filter system in the middle and 2 pieces of cotton cloth on the outside, and a way to make a closure or conform to your nose and your chin. The only other thing we're missing here is having this be a little bit smaller at the edges of the chin so that it actually fits to your face. So to do that, I just kind of accordion 1 or, well, actually I guess 2, accordion 2 folds like that. You could do 3, however many kind of forms an arc over the nose and the chin. So I just am folding those, and I'm going to sew those in place on the edge. Something I have noticed is that depending on whether you got past the seam, it will be a little bit angry at you for trying to cut or sew through this many layers of fabric. That's okay. Another alternative for this portion is if you had the ability to, you could super glue these things so that they stay together, because this part is just to make sure that it's fitting closer to your face. Like I said, this is the trickier part of the mask making, since you're dealing with a filter here. All right. So now we have one side of the mask that's already pleated. We'll pleat the other side in roughly the same way. Guess you shouldn't have the pleats overlapping. Maybe that's what my problem is. So again, just making a pleat and then sewing that pleat together. There are many wonderful people out there that sew a lot better than I do. I just know how to tell you how to make it. You can make it pretty. Oh, that was much better. Okay. All right. Now, despite having all these strings, once we cut these strings off, we have a mask which can conform to your face. And I'm going to show you how. So, whichever you had as your top really doesn't matter. In this case, both are the same. In fact, the inside and the outside are the same. So go ahead and stick it on your face. Use that nose piece to press in And if you remember, the older style N-95s would have a twisty tie at the bottom to close this gap that happens at the bottom of your chin. That's important here. You can have the best filter, but if you do not have the ability to seal these holes, then it's really not a very effective mask. So when I'm ready, I'll twist this to kind of get it a tight seal around my face, and you know if air is escaping out the bottom. Now these straps that I have around my ears, I will tell you, they are not the most comfortable after about 4 or 5 hours of working. So what I've done is I take a piece of string. It could be a shoelace, it could be anything. Just grab a shoelace. This will help form a better seal around your mask too. Just putting it through the 2 holes on either side. This will save your ears after a long shift, if you can find them. Okay. And just using that extra cord to, it's in my ponytail. Using that extra cord to pull it closer to your face. Again, forming that good seal. So I'm going to turn my head here, the camera. So please look that this has it's conforming to my nose right here and not getting air leaks up through this top part. I have the twist tie that I can twist to make sure that there are no leaks coming out the bottom. And because I've tied this tight to my face, I don't have any air leaks coming out the side. Face masks are very helpful for droplet particles, most especially if they're fitting close to your face. If air's getting in here or up here, that's zero filtration. At least if it's pressed against your face and it's cotton, then you have a 50 micron filtration. In this case, I have cotton and a coffee filter. That's a 20 micron filtration. When we get the filtration cloth that I've ordered, which is 1 micron, then we'll just sew that into this mask. And then we would have created a mask which is something that can be made by just regular people, not in a factory, that is able to block most of the particles that would be causing trouble in the hospital, and we'd be able to hopefully make these in mass quantities so that we have 4 for each caregiver. Now I want to explain why I think every caregiver should have 4. So these masks, when the filter cloth comes in, these masks are not washable. If you wash a mask, the filtration cloth starts to break down. So do not wash these. Instead, when you're done with your shift, take it off, stick it in a clear Ziploc bag, and make sure no one touches it. Ideally, you'll keep that Ziploc bag open. You might want to put it in the sun just to help speed up the decontamination process, but leave it alone. The coronavirus lives for 3 days on, can live up to 3 days on surfaces. So if you put your mask in a Ziploc bag and you leave it alone for 3 days, it's decontaminated. Given that, what we can do is, if each caregiver had 4 masks, the first day of work, you put on a mask, you wear it, you take care of patients, you go home, you take it off, you put it in a bag, you leave it alone. Leave the bag open though, so that bacteria doesn't start growing in it. Just kind of get the moisture out. The second day, take the second mask, do the same thing. Go home, take it off. Third mask, do the same thing. Then with your fourth mask, same thing. You take it home and you put it in the bag. You leave it alone. If you were working 5 days in a row, that means that by the time you've finished with your fourth mask, you can go back to your first mask, and that first mask is self-decontaminated because the virus can't live on surfaces for more than 3 days. So if we do this and we use this plan of cycling, kind of self-decontaminating the masks, we could make each mask for approximately the cost of 50 cents. And we could have them for every caregiver in our hospital. And it really wouldn't even cost that much money to do so. And I really want to emphasize that you can have a great mask. You can have all the N-95 masks you could possibly want. But if they're only getting to a portion of caregivers, then you leave a bunch of people exposed, and that does not slow the spread of the virus. It is more valuable overall to have everybody have a good mask than for a select portion to have a great mask. So it's my goal and my hope that you can help me at St. Charles Bend Hospital to create these masks so that we can have 4 masks for every caregiver so that we can slow the spread of this virus. And if you're watching this and you don't live in my town, please feel free to copy this idea. All you need is a bunch of people that know how to sew, that have cloth and a little bit of elastic and something to tie with, and you can make masks, provided that you are able to get the filter cloth. You can make masks which could be, if you can find 0.5 micron paper or micron cloth, that's great. The only thing that I can find now with suppliers is 1 micron filtration. But again, that is 20 times more effective than even a coffee filter mask, and 50 times more effective than just a fabric mask. It's in fact the regular droplet masks. I was reading they're 5 micron. So if all you had is a 5 micron mask, and you had one of these masks which has 1 micron filter paper or filter cloth in it, then you have the potential of blocking that much more of the virus. It is the best homemade system that I know of to create a mask which is as close to the N-95 as possible. So please feel free to share this video and to let your loved ones know if there's any way that they can help in making the mask, producing the masks, even if all it is cutting up some fabric and letting people know that you have it so that they can pick it up and make the masks. Do anything you can. This is a great time to be helping one another, and there's a lot we can do. So thank you for watching this video, and I hope that you get mask making in no time.